us for prayer. Father, in the name of Jesus, we thank you for being in your presence one more time. Thank you for your love, your joy, and your peace. Thank you for everything that you have done for us. We give your name the praise for allowing us the opportunity to study your word tonight. Bless those who wanted to be here but just could not make it. Bless those who are on their way. In Jesus' name, amen. Amen. Okay, Job, last chapter. We've come a long way in the book of Job.
42?
42, yeah.
That's it.
Job 42. And
42.
Understand the last section that we're in, the last section is God speaking to Job. Now you know all the other chapters where we started in chapter 38, when God began to talk. Now Job talks and he hears what God has to say in this last chapter. Of course, you know, we're reading from the New Living Translation of the Bible. And it reads in the first three verses, and you call this Job is humble. Look at the first three verses of chapter 42. Then Job replied to the Lord, I know that you can do anything, and no one can stop you. Verse 3, you asked, who is it? Who is this that questions my wisdom with such ignorance? It is I, and I was talking about things I knew nothing about, things far too wonderful for me. So just look at those first three verses. So now here is Job opening up and saying, God, I'm sorry. I messed up. I shouldn't have been saying anything. Because you know, from chapter 38, 39, 40, and 41, God explained to Job what? Who he was. And I love the way he did. He said, okay, Job, where were you when I put the stars in the sky? Where were you when I put the sun in the sky? Where were you when I created the universe? Where were you when I created these wonderful animals? Not only did he say, where were you when I created the animals, God went into detail explaining what some of these animals are capable of doing, right? He talked about the alligator, he talked about the birds, he talked about the hippopotamus, he talked about all of these animals. And we said the reason he did that, the reason God explained it, because he wanted to show Job the diversity of these animals and how he created them. And guess what? He said, I made them. I made them just like that. And if I can create them, don't you think I can take care of you? If I can create them in the universe and everything, why are you asking me? Why are you going through what you're going through? You should already know. Well, God know what he's doing. If he can if he can do all of this, he knows what he's doing. I think about us today, we should be the same way. To me, we should not question God at all, because we should already know God got us covered. He got our back. He's not going to do anything to harm you. He's not. So when we don't understand something, it's better for us to say, we don't understand. It's better for us to say, God, I'm still going to trust you even though I don't know what's going on. I don't understand why this is happening, but I'm going to trust you because you're allowing it to happen to me. That's the way we should take things that happen negatively to us, instead of saying, well, people get mad at God, or they sit down on God, or they don't pray, they don't read, they stop coming to church, they stop working in the church. You're not hurting God.
That's right.
That was the first chapter. The first chapter, God began to speak in chapter 38. He brought that point up. Okay, what you think you're doing to me? You can't do nothing to God if sitting down on God. The only thing we can do when we sit down on God is what? We hurt ourselves. So here, Job heard God's speech. So Job realized his error. When do people realize when they're in the wrong? You know when somebody is in the wrong when they what? How do you know when somebody else realized they were in the wrong? What do?
They ask for forgiveness.
They ask for forgiveness. They apologize. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm in the wrong. That's exactly what they do. They apologize for what they have done. So one of the things we also found out that Job was not. Out of all these 42 chapters, we found this out. Job was not an evil man, He's not an evil man. But he did speak some unwise words about God. And we're going to find out tonight, through some of these verses, why he even did that. And show you how people can get you to say some stuff. You didn't think they can get you to say some stuff negatively. Let somebody get you mad enough. Let somebody yeah, see, let somebody keep nagging at you and keep doing something at you and provoking you. You can say some stuff that you really didn't mean to say, and you got to go back and say, yeah, I'm sorry, I apologize.
That's true.
I'm sorry, I didn't say it. So that's what happened to Job. So sometimes Job did complain about God, why God allowed these things. He did complain, but he never cursed God. He never turned his back on God. Sometimes Job, he accused God of putting him in these bad situations and said God, he didn't understand, and he thought God hated him. He thought God was punishing him for something, and he just couldn't understand it. And instead of him saying, God, I just don't understand why I'm going through what I'm going through, but I still trust you, he made some unwise comments based off what some of his friends were saying to him. But this passage, the first 3 verses, is saying Job was humble. He asked God to forgive him. And that's something that's very key. We, as Christians, got to keep in our mind this fact. We should always be asking for forgiveness. No matter, I don't care how bad it is. I don't care what we did wrong. Don't feel that you cannot come to God and ask for forgiveness. And let me ask you a question. Is there anything too bad that God wants to forgive you for?
Yes.
What is that?
If you curse the Holy Spirit.
Okay. We call that what? Cursing the Holy Spirit.
Blasphemy.
Blasphemy against the Holy Spirit. Now, I'm glad you brought that point up. So what is it? How do you curse the Holy Spirit? How do you blaspheme against the Holy
Is
Spirit?
that before one just rejecting God? Or just
That's rejecting God as your Savior. That rejecting Jesus Christ as your Savior is cursing the Holy Spirit. Because, see, it's the Holy Spirit that's trying to convict you, trying to get you saved. And every time a person turns away from Christ, no, not today. I don't want to hear about that Jesus. I don't want to get saved. I don't know. No. They rejecting God. So they can do that all the way up till when? How often can they do that? Till the day they die. They can do it all the way to their last breath. God will, on their deathbed, God allow them to have a deathbed. God will allow them to say that and talk like that all the way to their deathbed. And then if they ever say on the deathbed, you know what? I need God in my life. You mean to tell me he accepted him?
Yes.
Yes, he will.
And they ain't lived out one Christian life. They about to die. They have 10 minutes left. They didn't get baptized.
That's how good God
They didn't get baptized yet. They didn't work on the usher board or nothing. They didn't get no tithes.
They ain't get
You
nothing.
mean God gonna let them in?
The thief on the cross didn't do nothing.
I'm glad that's right. That's a good example. He was right there on the cross and said, when you get to your kingdom, remember me. And Jesus said what? Today, you're going to be with me in paradise.
Right.
And that was it. So you're right. You can, but how often does that happen where a person knows when they're going to die? Nobody knows the day or night when we're going to leave here. We just don't know. Look at verse 4 through 6. We're in chapter 42. For those who just joined, we're in chapter 42, the last chapter. We are now in verse 4 through 6. The first 3 verses, Job just asked God for forgiveness. He said, I shouldn't have been saying nothing. I should have kept my mouth closed. I was wrong, God. Forgive me. That's when we should get to that level of saying, God, forgive me. Look at verse 4 through 6. I'll be reading from the New Living Translation. It says this, you said, listen, and I will speak. I have some questions for you. This is Job talking to God. And you must answer them. Verse 5, I had only heard about you before, but now I have seen you with my own eyes. Verse 6, I take back everything I said, and I sit in dust and ashes to show my repentance. So not only did he, he's continually asking God for forgiveness, he's continually asking God, Lord, restore me because I was wrong. What did he mean when he said in verse 5, I had only heard about you before, but now I have seen you with my own eyes. Did Job see God? What are you talking about? He said, I seen you with my own eyes. What you think he's talking about there? Did he literally see God?
No, I think he's seen the works that he did in his life.
He's talking about the works, because God, in chapter 38, 39, 40, and 41, talked about his works. Talked about what he created. He said, okay, now I see you, God. Okay, I see you now. That's exactly right. So this is what he's talking about. He didn't see God's face. He didn't see him physically. God is not a man. He doesn't have a body. He's talking about the Father, that is. So that's what he said. So Job, here's another thing that's recurring in this chapter. You're going to hear about it a lot tonight, and that's this. Job was a servant of God. That's what we are. We are servants of God. Always remember that. Job was a servant of God even before Job started suffering. Before he was suffering, before the devil attacked him, Job knew this one thing. I serve God. And the question is for us, do we say that every day? Do we say we serve God? When we come to church and work in a service on Sunday, it really shouldn't be no big I's and little U's, right? Nobody should be caught up on any titles or anything like that. All of us are here to do what? Serve God. That's what we're here. And sometimes, especially in a small church like this, some of us might have to wear 2 or 3 hats. We have to.
That's right.
You might have to clean the kitchen one Sunday, you might have to cook, you might have to shovel the snow, you might have to put the sign up, you might have to usher, you might have to be the nurse, you might have to. Until God allows us to grow to the point where we have a lot of people where we can break them up into all these categories. Sometimes we have to do it because we're here to do what? Serve God. I think I told you about that church, Elevation Church. I forgot where it is, but their church is only maybe 8 years old. No, they're probably about 10 years old now, but they have about 10,000 members, right? But when they started 10 years ago, it took them 10 years to get to 10,000, right? You know how many people they started with? 3 families. 10 years ago. Now you got 10,000 members. So the pastor said, people come from all over the country trying to figure out how they get to 10,000 folks in 10 years. Because they're one of the fastest growing churches in the country. So he told them, oh yeah, y'all can come to our little leadership meetings. Y'all can see people try to replicate what they do, but they really don't know what they're doing. So he said, when people come to our church and see what we do, they don't want to do what we do to get to the 10,000 members. He said, first of all, the one thing that they did, he says, when people join the church, he always tells the people, when he get the people in the mindset that when you come to church, you're not coming to church to sit down. That seat, well, listen to this, that seat that you sit in is for a sinner. That's their mindset. Their mindset is, I didn't come, because I hear this all the time. I come to church to get the word. I got to get the word for me. You already saved.
That's right.
You going to heaven. That's his whole point. You going to heaven. You've been saved for 20 years already. What about the person who ain't saved? So he says that's their mindset. So when they come to church, the members have an idea, we can't sit down. I got to bring people here to take my seat. So that's how they start inviting people. So if you had to work in the parking lot, if you had to be the person that you want to be a greeter, if you became a member after you went through the new training, you didn't sit down. You did something in church. Everybody did something. He said it just kept growing. It just kept growing and growing. Now 10 years later, you got 10,000 members. So now he's almost like Kinlock. He got about 5 or 6 churches now. They got about 5 or 6 campuses. I forgot what city it was. But you can take Kinlock as an example as well. Sister Jackson knows, we grew up together. The church that Kinlock is the pastor of, I remember was Deanna the founder? Yeah, I remember the founder of that church. I was a little boy when our church used to fellowship with Triumph Missionary Baptist when they was one of the nice little churches back in the day. And so when that pastor died, I think I was a teenager when he died. When he died, a couple of men came in, tried to take over. I think one of his sons tried to take it over. Church never grew to the point of where it was. He always had a nice sized church. He had about a 500-seat church when we used to go fellowship with him. But when it would never happen, when they got Kinlock, now Kinlock did the exact same thing. All Kinlock did was do what? Invite Levite. Now, you know, Kinloch doesn't come from here. He graduated college in Alabama. He comes from the South. They called him to be the pastor here in Detroit. So he don't know a lot of people. So one thing that you notice, I've never been to one of the services, but my daughter had to sing. She was singing with Bill Moss, and they had to sing for him in one of their services. My daughter said this. She noticed this. When you go to one of their services just like ours. They don't have long services.
They showed up.
He come in, he preach, he out. They in an hour and a half, they out. That's one thing. Number two, the music department. Of course, when he brings some guests in, he gonna bring some guests in. You got CeCe Winans, you got Kirk Franklin. So people, that draw a crowd by itself. So he has that going for him. But the main thing is this, because you can't get Yolanda to come every Sunday, right? So everybody you're not going to get a celebrity every Sunday. So guess what's keeping them? It got to be the word.
That's
And the whole point is this, another thing that he does, he makes himself available. Out of the 5 churches that he started, and he preached at every last one of them. He never turned people away from not talking to them. And it's just, and those churches are growing. I think now they're thinking about trying to put them all together. They think about buying Northland.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow.
Make a church out of Northland. Because you know they gonna close Northland.
Right.
Y'all know that.
Right.
They think they're gonna buy that property in Southfield.
wow.
And close the little old churches down and bring everybody. But I think that's gonna be a mistake. Because number one, you're growing with the churches that you're, because he has one in Novi. I mean, what's it? Is it Novi? Is it, what's the next city near Novi? He has a church there too. That church is growing out there in the suburbs. Then you got about three churches here in the city. You got one in Southfield. Got churches. I mean, they got about 4 or 5 churches. So the question is, when we talk about being a servant, that attitude. We have to have a servant attitude. Just think about those little 5 churches that he has, about Elevation Church. What if people didn't have an attitude? I just come to hear the word. I ain't come to do nothing but hear the word. Those churches won't grow. They won't grow. That's the attitude we try to get here. We got to get everybody to the attitude of we are servants. Nobody should be saying I'm the supervisor over 2 people. Okay, no, you're not. There's only 2 people in here. Come on now. But you want to be the boss there. Over 2 people. Come on. That's our problem with a lot of churches. We got a lot of chiefs and no ladies.
Yeah.
That's the problem. If we can break that mold of everybody believing that they are servants, that'll be great. That'd be great. So Job believed that he was a servant of God, and he was. And you know, he was wealthy, and he still was a servant of God. So here's another thing. Job trusted God because other people told him that he was doing something wrong. And he said, no, I believe I didn't do anything wrong. I am an upstanding, right man in God's eyesight. We found that out in chapter 1, right? So when God spoke to Job, and Job went through those experiences that he went through, God is trying to get him to do what? Trust him. Same thing we have to do. We have to just trust God in everything that we do. So I'm going to just tell y'all this. So you're the first few people that's going to hear about this next year. Our church now will be 6 years old in April. And a pastor told me this 5 years ago, and I've been watching a couple of pastors and watching how their church grows and listening to some of their advices, and he said this. He says every 5 years, so we're coming to the end of our 5th year, every 5 years you should evaluate your church, where you are, what you're doing, if you're growing, how much did you grow? And you're basing this off the first 5 years. He says now, and he made a comical joke. This is, I don't know if everybody heard of R.A. Vernon. R.A. Vernon is a pastor in Ohio, African-American pastor in Ohio. He also started a church with 500 members in the year 2000. Well, because he was a pastor of the Baptist church, they called him to the church. They didn't like his style. He was a young preacher. He would come to church with jeans on, with throwback jerseys and stuff like that. They didn't like that. They said, no, we don't want our pastor. You got to dress sugar sharp and all this kind of stuff. So he says, no, I'm going to keep doing this because the people started coming, the young people. He started getting a lot of young people, but the people didn't like it. The older members didn't like it, so they put him out. You got to go. So the church split. Church had 500 members, 250 people went with him, and the other 250 people stayed at that church. So he walks away with 250 people in the year 2000. What's this? 2016. He got 25,000 people. They still got their 250
What? Oh my God.
at the other church because they stuck in the past.
Yeah.
He got 25,000 people in Ohio, black folks. 25,000. How do you get 25,000 from the year 2000? It's only 2016. And he talks about how he did it. But he said this, evaluate your church. First 5 years, evaluate your church. He said, I'll give you the first 5, because we'll chalk it up that y'all knew. We'll chalk it up that, you're trying to do something for the Lord. He said, but when y'all get to the 6th and 7th year, and you're not growing, he said something is very seriously wrong. Something is wrong. Here's the idea. Here's what's wrong. What could be wrong is, and maybe y'all probably heard about this, there are some people who don't want their church to grow. They like going to a church with 30 people in it. That's why they call them family churches. Where the pastor, then, his uncle, his brother's the deacon, his sister is this. And some people like those churches, and that's fine. But is that the church that God showed the pastor, or the vision for the pastor, right? Our vision is to grow.
Amen.
We gotta grow. How God allows us to grow, and I was watching R.A. Vernon, he was saying these things. He said, when people ask us, well, how do we get to 25,000 people? He said, let me tell you, because he got about 6 campuses as well. He's just like, what's his name here in Detroit? Killa. So he said this. He said, you know what we did? When I took those 250 people, and we was meeting somewhere in a restaurant, we was meeting in a hotel, we didn't even have a church. We didn't have no church building. We had to find somewhere to worship. So, but you know what we did every day? He said, every weekend, we went out and we passed out tracts, or we did this. And then he said, I will connect with some companies and I'll get some food, like the Forgotten Harvest. We will connect with companies like that. Or I'll just we'll go connect with another company and get like a lot of gym shoes. And we'll go to the nearest school in that area. And we'll pass out those gym shoes to those kids. And we'll buy some bikes. And we'll pass out some bikes. So he says, I'm in that neighborhood. So when we did that, guess what? People came to our church. And then we just doubled it. We just kept doing it. Taught the other people how to do it. He said we would do stuff like, y'all know those side stickers that you can actually get a magnet for your car.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
He said we had magnets on. He said the word church. That's it. He said just put the magnet on your car. Put the address, the magnet on your car. You just drive around. That's your church. People will ask you, well, why you got that magnet on your car? Yeah, my church is right around the corner. Come on, visit us. You have to invite. We got to invite. So that was one thing he said we have to do. Says when you evaluate your church. So that's what we're going to do. As far as the new year, we're going to think about doing some new things. Because you know what insanity is, right? What is insanity?
Doing the same thing over and over.
It's right. They expected what? New results. You can't keep doing the same thing over and over and over and over again thinking you're going to get some different results. You're going to get the same results over and over again. So we're going to do some things differently. We tried a few things, and it seemed like we fell off of them that worked. I'm talking about things that worked that we just didn't continue to do. And we're just going to start doing that a little bit more. Look at verse 7 through 9. So he says this, we know that God forgave Job because of verse 7 through 9. Now, because some people say, did God forgive Job? Oh yeah, he forgave him. Watch this, 7 through 9. Let's read it. 7 and 8 says this. The Lord blesses Job. After the Lord had finished speaking to Job, he said to Eliphaz the Timnite, I am angry with you and your 2 friends, for you have not spoken accurately about me as my servant Job has. So take 7 bulls and 7 rams, and go to my servant Job, and offer a burnt offering for yourselves. My servant Job will pray for you, and I will accept his prayer on your behalf. I will not treat you as you deserve, for you have not spoken accurately about me as my servant Job has. Now we know Job said some negative things about God,
Yeah.
but why God not punishing him? Why are you only punishing the 3 friends? Because their attitude from the beginning was what? You wrong, God only punishes evil people, and Job, you evil. So their attitude was wrong. Job never really started out that way. Remember, we said this about Job. Job got that way because he listening to them. As I was saying earlier, sometimes people can provoke you to go there. They can. And he's like, Lord, I got to go ask her for forgiveness because I did go off on her. But she had it coming. We're only human. We not in heaven yet. I tell people that all the time. We're not in heaven yet. We're trying to get there. We're not there yet. So we're going to run into situations where we're going to do wrong things and we have to apologize. Job's friends actually provoked him to say some negative things about God. That's why God didn't make Job do these things that he's asking his three friends to do. As a matter of fact, Job was the one in the first 3 verses said he was sorry, right? He was the one that repented. You never read where these 3 friends repented about what they said because what they thought they said was right. And they were totally wrong. God said it. God said, listen, what you guys said about me was inaccurate. You have to ask for forgiveness. Now, guess how he did it? Job, you got to go to Job, the one you was talking about. You got to go to him. And he will say a prayer over you. Then I'll forgive you. Well, that makes a lot of people real mad. You got to go to the person that you was talking about. The person you talked down about, and you got to ask them for forgiveness. Well, the Bible does say, Jesus said this, if you have an ought against your brother, right? He says, go to him, leave your offering to the side. Get it right with your brother first. Then bring your offering to the Lord. Now, let me correct it. He didn't say if you had an ought against them. He said if your brother got an ought against you. So it may not be that you have an attitude against somebody. If you knew about a person that had an attitude against you, he says you go to him first before you even bring your offering. Try to get it right with them. Now, there's ways that we can do that. If they turn you away and say, I don't want to talk to you, that's on them now.
That's right.
You did what you had to do. I tried to come to you. I tried to talk to you, and you turned me away. You done what God. He didn't tell you to follow behind them.
That's right. You can't force it.
You can't force that on them. No, you do what you're supposed to do. I had to do that. I had to write a letter to somebody because they weren't listening. So I said, okay, let me just write a letter to them. Wrote a letter to them. Didn't hear from them at all. But I left it at that. I had to leave it at that. I had to get what I had to say off my chest because it says if that person has an ought against you. I was trying to figure out why he had an ought against me. I said, well, if I did anything wrong, I'm sorry. I apologize. I put it all in there. They ain't heard from me yet. I'm like 3 years ago. I ain't heard from him yet. But that's okay. If I ever run into him in the street, I'm going to still talk to him. I'm going to still say hello. I'm still as if nothing has ever happened. And that's what he wants us to do. So they have to go to Job and ask for forgiveness because they were wrong. You know, it says here in my notes that Job had decided to do God's work on earth. We found that out in chapter 29. Job was already God's servant. We found that out in chapter 1, verse 8. And Job was still God's servant during what he was going through, right? Chapter 2. That's chapter 2, verse 3. Now, in verse 7 and 8, God emphasized 4 times. 4 times he said in those 2 verses, Job is my servant. That's the attitude we have to get. We are servants of God. I'm here to do God's will. It's almost like working in the church is almost like making a movie. You have the movie stars. We know them by name. We can call them out, Denzel Washington, Halle Berry. We can call these people out. But do you know what it takes to make a movie? A really good movie? They are the forefront. They want to get the big bucks because they are in front of the camera. But what about all the people that's behind the camera? What about that guy who's actually running that camera? And what about the director? And what about the people who make the costumes? And it takes all of that to make that one or two actor look good. So we can say, oh man, you know, we love the movie. I mean, we really got to understand what it takes to produce a good product. It takes more than just one person.
That's right.
So the church is set up the same way. We got certain gifts in the church. We got gifts we call the upfront gifts, like the actor. That is, let me give you some. The preacher. He's just the preacher. He's just preaching the gospel, but he's up front all the time. But what about all the people behind the scenes? What about the people that's working in the kitchen? What about the people that are ushering? What about the people that's making the bulletins? What about those people? What about the people that count the money, that make sure the finances is correct? That's all part of the church. You know, every person is important. And once we make that distinction in our churches, that everybody needs to be doing something in the church because everybody's important. What are you doing as a servant of God? That should be our goal in 2017. And we need to figure that out and keep that going because we all servants. I'm just up front, but it doesn't mean that everything should fall on me. Everything should fall on all of us.
That's right.
To make one, we try to get to one product, right? And that's what? Winning the soul. Winning the soul. We want these souls. We want souls. You know, and just to let you know how many souls out there, there's lots of them.
Yes, sure is.
I work in a city, I work in a school where, I'm not sure how many kids, we only can seat maybe 200 kids in our building. By the end of our school year, 1,000 kids would have came through our school.
Yeah.
1,000. Have came through, for some other reason they left, they went somewhere else, they didn't like the program, whatever. We look at the list of all the kids. Did we just count 1,000 kids came through here? And we only graduated 25?
Oh.
Because kids drop out, they drop out every day. They drop out of high school every day. And when they come back, drop out, come back, drop. I said, wow, how many kids out there not going to school? There's a whole lot of them. As a matter of fact, when I was going to the houses and when we do our count day, we like 2 months before we start going to the houses because we start looking for our kids. So I go to the houses and I notice that there are kids answering the door on school time and they 12 and 13 years old. You supposed to be in school. I'm looking for your big brother, but you're supposed to be in school too.
It's a truant officer. They don't have
Yeah, well, you know, Detroit, DPS just signed, they're gonna go back to the Detroit Police Department being in the schools. They're getting rid of all the security guards. They had Securitas.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they're getting rid of Securitas and they're putting Detroit Police back in the schools, starting next school year. And they're hiring the truant officers again. Because it's too many, I'm telling you, it's too many kids from first grade to the 12th grade not going to school.
Right, and this is the parents.
Yes, that's parenting. I'm telling you, I've seen kids 10 years old, 8 years, I couldn't believe it. If I had a video, but you don't be wrong, if I had a videotape, 2-year-old baby came to the door, opened the door. It's 11 o'clock in the afternoon, I'm knocking on the door, he's 2 years old, he opens the door, and he left the door open because I'm trying to, nobody came to, it took 15 minutes for an adult to come to the door, and it wasn't mom and dad.
Wow.
I could have took that boy
That's right.
in my car down the street.
Mm-hmm.
Just that quick, because he had his bottle in his hand and everything else. Open the door. I was like, what in the world with these people? What's wrong with these parents? I could not believe it. I said, so in Detroit, we have a long way to go, but that goes to show you, if 1,000 kids can go through just one, my school, we got 3 schools, but 1,000 kids went through our program, either they dropped or came in, but that's a lot of kids. Now, what does that say about churches? In this neighborhood alone, you got over 1,000 people, and everybody ain't going to church.
That's right.
So we're not in competition with the church across the street. We're not in competition with no churches. That's how many people, it's enough people in this city for all these churches to be full.
Exactly.
You know how many people in the city of Detroit? Over 600,000.
1,000, yeah.
600,000, and everybody can't go to one church.
Right.
Think about that way too. Everybody can't go to the same church. So don't get mad because one guy got 5,000 and another guy got 2 and another guy got 30. No, we got enough people out there in the streets that we can grab. And I'm really for the unchurched. I want the unchurched. I want the people who've never been to church. I want people who don't even know anything about Christ. I want the kids that, some of the kids came to me and said, why do we have Friday off? It was Good Friday. And they didn't know. They're 18 years old. Mr. Eli, why we ain't come to school tomorrow? What's Good Friday? What you mean, what's Good Friday? They did not know. Never been to church. That's the kids I want. That's the people I want. Because they're not stuck in tradition. They're not stuck on what they have to dress. They're not stuck on that kind of stuff. They will come to church and serve God without all of these rules and regulations that we grew up on. You know, because some people still won't go to church unless they got their sugar shop. I was taught if I ain't come to church sugar shop, then I ain't doing God no service. Okay, you're right. Okay, but you gonna sit there and not work in the church either. You sugar shop, but you ain't gonna do nothing in church. Right? That's crazy to me. That we have these rules and regulations about how church should be ran, and there's nowhere in the Bible how it should be ran. The unchurched don't know these things. Grab them, tell them they need Jesus, and get them working in the church. Yes.
I just want to make a comment. I think that's why I enjoyed, like, when we went to the shelter last night, to hear the young girls' perception on Christmas, and to hear Sister Eli talk to them and certain things they don't know. And it's like, you sit there like, wow, you just think about it because you know about it, but you don't think about it on the other end. So it is refreshing to see, especially young girls, receive that information, and it is something that you plant that seed. So it is refreshing to see young people in general receive that information and knowledge, and it's something that can grow with them.
You can grow with them. Yeah. So we can never get tired of saying, "Oh, everybody heard about Jesus." No, everybody haven't.
Right.
No, they have not. Our job is never done. Our job is never done. We always have somebody we can tell about Jesus. So don't just think because everybody goes to this church or that church that everybody heard about Jesus. We got the Word Network. We got Impact TV. Don't worry about none of that because everybody ain't watching Impact.
That's
And everybody not watching the Word Network. They watching youth. Look, I work in a school. Every time I'm going to the classrooms because we are all computer-based school. These kids are on YouTube. They watching everything but Jesus on YouTube. So I know, with all the technology we have and all these preachers and all this, everybody just not watching that. We have to approach them in a different way. We have to. Because if we don't start really approaching these young people, we're going to lose a whole nother generation out there into the world. Let's go a little further. He says this, we go to the next part because we only got a few minutes left. I want you to write, let's see where it is. Okay, verse 9. Verse 9, Job prays for his friends. So he does it. He does pray for his friends. So Eliphaz, verse 9. So Eliphaz, the Timnite, Bildad, the Shuhite, and Zophar, the Naamite, did as the Lord commanded them, and the Lord accepted Job's prayer. So he prayed for them. Out of all the negative things that they said about him, out of all the evil things they said about him, you give another perfect example. It was Abraham Lincoln. Abraham Lincoln, there was a man who talked bad about Abraham Lincoln, said he shouldn't be the president of the United States. Said you guys don't want a tall, lanky person like him to be the president. I mean, he talked about him bad during the election. So when Abraham Lincoln won, there was a position open in his cabinet, and he picked this man that talked about him. So people was asking Abraham, don't you remember he had took out ads in the paper about you and said all these negative things about you. Why did you pick him to be a part of your cabinet? Abraham Lincoln said because he's the best man for the job. He didn't worry about what he said about him. He didn't take it personal. And then when Abraham Lincoln was killed, when he was killed, it was that person who used to say negative things. So I guess he used to be a writer. Wrote some of the best words about him and for his eulogy at his death. So see, you never know.
That's right.
So he never took it personal. Abraham Lincoln never took it personal. He forgave them. That's the kind of Christians we're supposed to be. Never take, and I tell our staff, because sometimes the teachers are crying because the kids cuss them out and everything. I said, why are you taking that person? That girl don't know you. She don't know you. You older than she is. She's 16 years old. She got you running out the classroom crying. I just can't believe it. Why are you taking this? You should turn it around on her. Turn it around. No, bring her back in. Turn it around on her. Say, you're in control of this classroom, not her. See, that's it. Because once you start showing that kind of weakness, then all the kids, we know we can make her cry real easy. We really gonna have fun with her. And they do it every single time. So I asked her, because one teacher tried to say that there was 3 kids she said they were terrorists. He's like, oh no, they just the worst kids in the world. I said, oh really, they the worst kids in the world? They the worst kids? I said, okay, so if that's true, well how come when I walk in your classroom, they sit down and be quiet? And they 20 years old. Or when they go to this other teacher, because you got to go to another classroom, she got them under control. Well, I don't know why, maybe they just don't like me. No, it has nothing about you. Then what are you presenting to them? How do you treat them in the classroom? How do you, and some of the kids will come to me and say, some of these teachers are so sarcastic to us.
Disrespectful.
Belittle.
They belittle us. Yeah, that's why you're in this school right now, because you couldn't make it in the other school, see? So now you want to know why I cussed you out.
Right.
And then when you cuss them out, now you're sitting to me, I don't know why she said that to me, Miss D. I don't know why she went off on me. I know why she went off on me.
Because sometimes they think because they are the adult and they can say anything they want to these children, and they think they don't supposed to get. I mean, they think they supposed to just get respect. You have to give it.
You have to. My thing with our kids is this: we have older teens. We have teens who I'm talking about. When I say teens, 19, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. We have some 23-year-olds. They got 2 kids living by themselves, and then you're gonna talk to them like they 2. And the kids don't want that. They don't like that. Said, no, man, you can talk to me, like I'm an adult, just like you are. That's our main issue at our school. And maybe that's why we got a revolving door with kids. Maybe that's one of the reasons why. And I brought that up in the meeting. I said, we have to treat these young people like young adults. To me, it's the same way, even I always relate everything back and forth to the church. Same way, how do we treat people when they come in? Do we look down on them? What is it that we could do to make people feel comfortable coming to church? Coming to church. We have to do something because we're losing a lot of people out there. We're going to talk about that at the beginning of the new year. But look at verse 10. Verse 10 says this. He says, when Job prayed for his friends, the Lord restored, watch this, you're going to love this, he restored his fortunes. God is saying, listen, if you can forgive them, and maybe Job probably, because some of us would have said, I ain't asking for their forgiveness. I'm not forgiving them for nothing. They talked bad to me for 3 weeks. As a matter of fact, we read a chapter where some of the little kids was coming by Job and laughing at him, remember? And they was talking about him. And they disrespected him. But he still forgave them. God restored everything he had. He said he restored his fortune. Watch this. In fact, the rest of the verse says, in fact, the Lord gave him twice as much as he had before. Now, if you read chapter 1, you already know he was rich.
Right.
He was already rich. Before the devil attacked him, he was rich. So you mean to tell me what he had in chapter 1, God doubled it? He doubled what he had. Okay, so watch what he had. Originally, Job thought that he would be wealthy in the first place, in chapter 29. He didn't think, and I think some people who got money never think that they can lose it. That's what happened to Job, too. He was always wealthy because he always served God. He never thought that would happen to him. He never thought he could lose his wealth and get sick or lose his whole family. And that's a problem with us where we don't expect negative things to happen. Negative things can happen to us. We just got to know how to react to these negative things. Then Job thought that he would die because of his sickness, remember? So he was making these crazy statements. And then now God said, no, I'm going to restore you. Look at verse 11. Watch this. He says this. Then all of his brothers, his sisters, and former friends came and feasted with him in his home. And they consoled him and comforted him, because of all of his trials the Lord had brought against him. And each of them brought him a gift of money. Y'all want to know how he got restored? With somebody else's money. God made everybody come to him and give him money. Watch this. Brought him a gift of money and a gold ring. So that's how he got some of his wealth back. Remember, he got double. These people avoided Job when he was suffering. Remember, because I'm thinking, okay, where was all these people when he was sick? Where was all these people when his children died? Where was all these people when those guys, those thieves came to his house and stole everything? But all of a sudden, okay, you showed up now. Okay, that's great. God made them come and give him money. Look at verse 12. So the Lord blessed Job in the second half of his life, even more than in the beginning of his life. Watch this. For now he had 14,000 sheep. So that means he only had 7,000 first. Like that wasn't a lot in the first place. He got 14,000 sheep, 6,000 camels, 1,000 team of oxen, and 1,000 female donkeys. Job had twice the number of what we read he had in chapter 1. All because he was faithful, he did not give up. Why is it that Christians today love to give up so easily? We don't even see. We think, we only see right now. That's how we look at it. We look at everything as right now. We don't see that in the end that we're going to win and that we outbeat the devil in so many ways, it's not even funny. If we just read the book of Revelation, as a matter of fact, when I get done with Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John on Sunday morning, I'm going to preach through the book of Revelation, because we do need to know that we are winners. We win in the end. We are on top. And a lot of people a lot of Christians don't live that fact out, that we are winners. And that's what he's saying here. Look at verse 13 and 14. He also gave Job 7, watch this. Now, okay, remember he lost 10 kids.
Right.
He gave him 7 more sons and 3 more daughters. Watch this, look at verse 14. He named his first daughter Jemima. Right? Jemima. I did not know that name was in the Bible.
Me either. That's what
I said, wait a minute. I did some research with it. Did this just say Jemima? Like, ain't Jemima? I couldn't, look, take the H off.
right.
That's Ain't Jemima right there. Guess what that is? That's right there. I could not believe it. I said, you know what, now I gotta find out what his name means. I have to find. So in Hebrew, Jemima means little dove, or it means lady daylight. It was remember, these 3 girls that Job had were, as the scripture is going to tell us in a minute, they was the prettiest girls in the whole land. There was nobody prettier than his daughters at that time. So he named her Jemima, which means a lady daylight or little dove. The second girl is Keziah, which means sweet cinnamon. And the third girl is Kiran Hapak, which means beautifier. So all 3 of these girls had beautiful names. They were beautiful women. And I did not know Jemima was in the Bible. I did not know that. I could not believe it. I thought that was a racist name and a pass out of the black folks. I can eat it now. But it's not, But notice how they tried to take it and make it a negative name. And I did not know, because of the thing and the slavery and things like that. But that is a beautiful name. Verse 15, in all the land, no women, here it is, in all the land, no women were as lovely as the daughters of Job. And their father put them into his will along with his brothers. So, to show you different, I told you every time the Bible mentions women's name, it's important. Because men in those days didn't put women in wheels. They didn't. They only put the boys in the wheel. He said he put his daughters in the wheel. He wrote their names in there. Because remember, the boys always take care of the girls. Right. So he didn't even let them do that. No, I'm going to put my daughters in the wheel. He put them in the wheel. So he looked after them even before he died. Look at verse 16, last 2 verses. It said Job's long life. Now Job lived 140 years. After that, this is verse 16. After that, living to see 4 generations of his children and grandchildren. Wow. Wait a minute, you know, we got people doing that right now too. If you was 16, you had a child. And your daughter had a baby at 16.
Oh, yes.
Oh, yeah.
Her daughter had a baby at 16. 4 generations come up real quick. You come up real quick. Yes, it can. I think my mother was a great grandmother. Yeah, she's a great grandmother. So her daughter had a daughter, and her daughter has a daughter. 4 generations. So God allowed my mom to see 4 generations of her family. That's an amazing thing, because when you see 4 generations of your family, that's great. That's good. He says he was able to see, he took him 140 years to see it, but he saw his children and grandchildren down to the 4th generation. That's a blessing to see. 140 years. Some people may question the age of Job when he died, 140, but remember he lived in the same time of who? This period, the whole book of Job is around whose time period in the Bible? Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. So remember around in chapter 5 of Genesis, people was living almost to 1,000 years old. The oldest person in the Bible was who? Methuselah, 969 years old. Adam lived to be 530, something like that, 530 years old. So this is not, God bless this man. Give you a couple of verses, write this one down about our age, while we only live to be 78 years old today. It says this in Psalms 90 and 10, says that a normal lifespan is 70 to 80 years. Right? And because of verse 16, some people think that Job lived a very ancient time. Last verse. We come to the last verse where it says, then he died, verse 17, an old man who had lived a long, full life. Just read that, who was that, Kirk Douglas? Yeah. Turned 100 years old. 100 years old, Kirk Douglas.
Oh, yeah.
Old actor, Spartacus. He turned 100. I did not know he was still alive. He just turned 100 years old this week.
He's blessed.
He is blessed. He had 5 sons, and all his sons are alive.
I think
Yes.
Tony Bennett is 100 years old.
Tony Bennett is old
He just had a
too.
birthday too.
Wow.
Yeah, Tony Bennett is still
He
around.
had a special thing on TV for his 100th birthday.
That's a blessing. That's blessed to see, especially when you get to be 100 years old. That is
Chapter, you say Psalm.
Psalms 90,
90 and 10.
verse 10. Yep, Psalms 90, verse 10. That talks about
Yeah.
the average age. Did you know? Now, this is Psalms. This is written 2,000 years ago, or 4,000 years ago. Listen, people still living. The average age is right now 70, almost 79 now. They say the age is going up. People are living longer now. Remember the age used to be 70?
Right.
Now it's older. As a matter of fact, they think about changing the Social Security.
What? To what?
70. They think about changing to 70 years
Oh, you
old.
guys, I don't know why I'm tripping.
It's 65 now, but they talking about changing it to 70.
I thought he did change.
Did they change it? I know they talked about
They
it.
making it hard for me.
Our age group, we have to be 70 years old before we get. Yeah, before we
Gonna
get.
be 80 in
Right, y'all.
They don't expect you to live
Y'all be 90 years old
that
trying to collect Social
long.
Security.
They don't expect you to live that long.
Yes, they don't. But people are living.
Yeah.
People are
My
living.
401k, I ain't working for that.
And so this is a blessing that you can read this in the Psalms where God promised that if we, He's the one that determines overall the amount of lifespan, but He cut that 300, 400 year life down. You're like, no, y'all ain't living that long. 70 years, 70, 80, I'll give you all that.
Not with the stuff.
But notice as we close with this, Job, he was blessed. And what we learned out of all these 42 chapters was what? That out of all the trials and tribulations that he did go through, he still was blessed in the end. We have to learn how to persevere. We have to learn how to just trust God no matter what we're going through, no matter what trial, no matter what tribulation, because guess what? God gonna bless you.
He sure is.
In the end, He is going to bless you. Any questions or comments about
Cause like you were saying, I can see that now with me, even though the things that happened with me with school. And I said, oh my God, and I used to say, I went to school for nothing. Then I had to flip it. I said, no, whatever I went through, whatever I learned wasn't for nothing. Because I'm gonna take that knowledge with me and keep on applying. And I'm gonna get wherever God wanna push me. And that's the way I had to flip it, because I was letting Satan almost say, wait a minute, oh, you didn't do this, you didn't do that. I said, no, that's why I'm keep on going. January, I'm at Wayne Community.
Keep on, you gotta keep on.
Keep on going.
That's because you got to. You know, and I want you guys to do something for me tonight. I want you to sign your names. If you guys still got some blank paper, I want you to write your names down. I want to give you guys a certificate for, because we've been in this book all year, all of 2016. So when we come back in January, we're going to start the book of Exodus. So if you know you've been coming to Bible class throughout the year, you don't have to have 100% attendance. I'm not saying that, but you know you've been coming and you studied most of it. I want to give you guys a certificate for going through most of these chapters. Yes.
Yeah, I do have a question. As a Christian, I feel like we can stand on the word and we can just get motivated when we going through stuff. But how do you motivate other people that may not be saved per se, and then they're going through their trials, and it's like they're just like in the slump, like, oh, this is going on. It's like I feel like you just can't say like, oh, God is gonna take care of it, because it's like they don't have the same belief or the same strength in God that we have. So how do you handle someone who say they're a Christian or someone who isn't saved? How do you help someone, or what can you say to when they're going through something like that?
The main thing you can do, you just have to be the example. You be the example and tell them what you would do when you're going through trials. Because that's the only thing you can do. And say, hey, listen, I've been through similar situations, but I'm just letting you know, this is what I've done. I just relied on God. I relied on Him. He helped me through it. And you got to become spiritual. That's why I keep trying to bring that up at our schools, where there are some Christians on the job and they get like kind of fed up with the kids, and I try to show them. I say, listen, they don't know what you know. And number two, they missing another piece. Y'all forget they missing church as well.
Right.
Some of these young people don't even, like I said, they don't know God. So you gotta look at it from that angle. You gotta look at like every kid grew up in your house and was respectful. Come on now, everybody grew up in your house. And you can't expect that from every kid. Why are you guys expecting all these kids to go to Harvard and all these? Right. No, we have to start thinking there's many routes to these young people's lives.
That's right.
Everybody ain't going to college.
That's right.
Some people are going to trade school. Some people are going to do this. Some people are going to do that. And I think we do disservice to our young people when we don't give them that opportunity to decide. We do not give them that opportunity, but I do. I tell them, what you want to do? I ask them, what do you want to do when you graduate? Okay, let me try to help you. You want to do this? Okay, there's a school over here. You can do this. You can do a 4-month training at this program. You can do this. You can do that. You want to do plumbing. I try to connect them with some people that's trying to do plumbing. Or if you want to do construction work, I know some people who can do construction. If that's what you want to do, I give them that option. I don't tell them everybody has to. No, because everybody is not going to learn that way. And so the way you go to them is tell them what you have gone through, how you've experienced trials and tribulations, and what you did to overcome.
Cause it's like you want to be positive or whatever, but then it's like when the person is like they just only want to dwell on the negative, and it's like, well, I can't help it. You right. Me like,
some of them do. Some of them
I
so
want to be
negative.
negative. Like, hey, you want, and then like you want to like, yeah, I understand, cause it's like sometimes I don't understand something.
Yeah, and that's what it is. A lot of people do are very negative, and sometimes you just gotta give them that good positive thing and walk away and say, yeah, I tried to help you. I tried to give you some of the positive things. But that's what some of the things we're gonna work on next year as well. Learning how to approach people.
Okay, that's what
Yes,
one thing I do
and
want to
evangelism. Yes.
work on. So it's-
That's going to be great. That's going to be great. Let's bow our heads for work. Father, in the name of Jesus, we thank you once again for allowing us to be in your presence. Thank you for your love, your joy, and your peace. Thank you for these, your children who are here today. We learned so much through the book of Job throughout 2016 as we come to the close of another year. We thank you once again for allowing us to learn the lesson of patience, learn the lesson of perseverance, learn the lesson that you are not our enemy, Satan is our enemy, and he's always attacking us, and we got to be prepared for him. And Heavenly Father, we just thank you for giving us salvation, putting us in our right mind, really turning our minds toward you. As we dismiss from this place, allow us to go to our several different homes and find everything in order. In Jesus' name, amen. So